Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
Hey, welcome back to the next podcast. Man, hopefully you're enjoying it, and maybe you just want to take a moment to send this to somebody. You haven't even listened to it yet, but you're like, you know what? I've listened to so many Chris and Todd moments that I can trust that this one may be okay as well.
Yeah, hope so. Yeah. You never know. We're a wild card.
It's shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Pew, pew. I'm Pastor Chris, and this is
Pastor Todd,
the Hot Toddy.
Oh, you brought that back, didn't you?
I was like, somebody brought it up the other day, and I'm like, you know what? I miss days calling you Hot Toddy, even though you are Pastor Todd Lynch.
Thank you. Yes.
The one and only. Yes. So, hey, we let's start with like a flashback here. Okay, like
flashback.
One of the first times I met Todd, he was giving a talk at a youth camp. And we're talking about growth today. And so this flashback has to do with growth.
Yeah.
And Todd brought a plant out.
I did.
And just how you take care of a plant. You've got to keep weeds, and you've got to keep things that are going to choke the growth out of this life. And yeah, it was profound. It was really a great talk. And it was just one of those moments where it was like, yeah, I think that truth is so good now. Just in the midst of all the distractions that we face in the midst of our life today. How do we grow? How do we get better? How do we take that step to mature, really, which is the key word, like, right? Grow in maturity and grow in the ability to just live life in a way that God calls us to live as followers of Jesus.
I think I made the kids all pick weeds after we got done with it. So.
Hey, let's go have a mandatory fun time picking weeds around campgrounds.
So this is an object lesson. With maturity and growth, it's a conversation that gets it's talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But when you start to experience it, that's where it's life-giving.
Yeah.
To where you're going, I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
And to me, those are just very profound words.
Yeah.
In life, and being able to go, man. And for you, I think it makes life meaningful. It gives life more purpose of going, okay, I'm becoming who I think God wants me to be.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I want that for everybody. And so I think it's important for us to have this conversation of going, okay, why is maturity important? I think that one's easy to answer, but what keeps us? I think what keeps us from doing it, that's probably the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to grow, I'd be like, okay, that's an interesting.
Yeah, help me understand. Well, yeah. The reason I laughed is all I could think about is, your wife looking at you. Are you ever going to grow up? No, never, never. But that's in jest. But I mean, I think sometimes there are just aspects of our life where like don't grow up. I just get excited, about a lot.
I think
of,
you still be a kid. At times.
Yeah. I am a kid a lot of times.
Be a little bit of a goofball.
I mean, watching my Hawkeyes get second in the national championship as women's basketball. I never thought I would cheer on women's basketball. I just got to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, I got excited about basketball. Let's get fired up.
Let's go. And so did a lot of other people.
Football teams coming around. You may score more than 3 points a week. For the Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's go.
They're experiencing some growth.
They are, new offensive coordinator. Let's go. And I think, okay, so in regards of growth, there are, I say all that to say this, there are things that we may have to add to our repertoire if we're going to grow, if we're going to be challenged. And sometimes it's a podcast. Sometimes it's sitting one-on-one with an individual. Sometimes it's literally sitting down and saying, okay, something has to be different. I can't keep going down this path. Because if I do, like what do they say? If you keep doing what you always do, you're going to get what you always got. And so what does that mean if we want to grow and we want to mature? Like, if you want to grow and mature in physically, you gotta get a plan. You got to stick to the plan. Maybe, like Pastor David has talked about, he gets a coach and the coach helps him do that. If you're going to get better at a sport or whatever, you gotta get a coach, and maybe for me, that's been a part of maturity. There are people in my life that are helping me and point things out in my life that say, hey, I really like what I see here, but I would love, I think there's something that you're missing here. And sometimes we do that for each other. Like you point out to me like, hey, I like what I'm seeing here, but man, what about this? What does this look like? And I know that's all over the board, but I just focused in on, who's speaking into your life when in regards to growth, because if it's just you, man, sometimes it's hard to convince yourself that you want to do that. And one, are you open and receptive to having someone in your life speak words like that?
Well, I think you're always going to have blind spots that you don't see in yourself, and you're probably not the best one to push yourself. Now, there's some people who can do it really well.
Yeah.
They are self-motivated and no problem with that. But most people usually are like, I feel like I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need somebody to go, you can grow a lot in this area.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't like hearing that. So I'm curious for you as you think through whether it's something you've experienced or you've watched over years, because I think you and I both, being a pastor for as long as we have, there's just been moments where it's been like, man, I wish that person would take some steps.
Yeah.
They're the same Christian they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what, from your experience, what keeps us in a comfortable state, I guess, or keeps us from growing?
I mean, I just think I like the way that it's going. Like there's no waves, there's no ruffling of anything. It's just, it feels good. Life's not too hard. It's not too easy. It's just a comfortable state. And I think, comfort is really one of those things where, no, this is good. I have the flexibility to do what I want to do. I have the ability to go the places I want to go. And I'm not, because the idea of taking a step may change this lifestyle that we have created, or this ideal scenario that we want in our lives or wanted. And it took us a long time to get to this point. So why would I grow and change something now?
Mm-hmm. I wonder with that is like, we look at it as mountaintop stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to get to the mountaintop.
Yeah.
And God's going,
I've achieved what I've wanted to achieve. I've got a great job. I've got a wife. I've got kids. And, man, I got a great RV sitting on back, and we get to camp, 3 times this summer. You're like, man, I had an RV, and camping 3 times this summer stunk. I want like 8 or 9 times. Anyway.
Yep. I wonder if comfortable is a part of, like, I think busy also becomes a piece of that. Like, we are so busy, we don't even have time to grow.
Yeah.
I remember talking to one guy, and he was just like, man, I'm just so busy. I just want an adventure again. I want to experience something that's like challenging, and not the sense of like, I don't need another work challenge. I don't need another, I just would love to just go backpacking for like a week and just have that kind of outdoor challenge kind of deal. And I was like, interesting. Not something I was like, oh yeah, outdoor challenge. No, thank you.
I think there's that balance there. Like there's this idea of like physical and personal challenges versus spiritual challenges, and what, how do we separate those two, and how do we get to realize that all life is our life? Because I think we do a really good job of dissecting our life. Well, that's my personal life, and that's my work life, and that's that's this part of my life, rather than saying, do we believe that all of our lives are, as followers of Jesus, are His life, at work in us, and how do we, if we're going to grow and mature as followers of Jesus, I think, to me, that has to be a part of the conversation, that everything I do, wherever I go, whatever I'm a part of, I want His life to be the thing that I seek after first and foremost.
I think there's a verse I'd love for everybody to keep in their mind. Like God said, He's like, I will finish the work that I started in you. Mm-hmm. So if you think you're done, what if you're the reason God can't finish what He started? And
because you shut that down,
because you're the one getting in the way of that. And I've always been like, oh God, but I don't. And so it's come somewhat to a prayer, like, please, like, let me keep growing, let me keep maturing. Don't let me settle for, I think I've made it.
Yeah.
In some senses. Now, I'm not saying have no confidence in yourself because, like, well, I have never made anything. No. Along the way, God's helping you and growing you and you becoming healthier in these areas. I think that's powerful to see and to celebrate that. But maturity is also having, I think, the humility to go, oh, God's not done.
Yeah. No, and as you were talking, I mean, like we could go so many directions with this, but I was just thinking about in Bible study last night, one of the guys, brought up this out of Proverbs, just talking about trials develop in you, what God is wanting to do. And I think none of us want those. None of us seek those out. But, what happens when they come our way? What are we willing to do? Are we willing to to press in. I mean, I can think of a one time specifically in ministry where someone came to me and said, "Hey, I think you should do this. I know you've been doing this, but what does it look like to do this?" And I was like, man, I don't really want to do that. But then I jumped in and I was like, wow, I really kind of enjoy